Ava from Emulsion Checking. Today we're going to be doing Section A of the pre-trip exterior inspection. We're going to do the front portion, passenger side, driver's side, and coupling system. Okay, so starting from the top, we have 5 lights. They are all amber in color. They are not cracked, they are not broken, they are not burnt out. They're properly secure with no missing hardware. The 3 in the middle are called my ID lights. Those identify this is a commercial vehicle. The ones on the side identify the height and width of my vehicle. Those are called my marker lights. I move down to my windshield. My windshield's not cracked, not broken, no illegal stickers, trips struck to my view, sealed all the way around. Move down to my windshield wipers. My windshield wipers are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, enough rubber on my blade. Move down to my hood. My hood opens and closes properly, secure on both sides with latches. These are my hood mirrors. They're not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, no illegal stickers, trips struck to my view. This is my grill. It's not bent, broken, or cracked, all in one piece, no major damage, so no debris can enter my engine and damage my radiator. I move down to my lights. I have headlights and I have indicator lights. Those are not cracked, not broken, and not burnt out. They're properly secure, no missing hardware. Headlights are white in color. Those are my high and low beams. Indicator lights are amber in color. Those are my left and right indicators and 4-way flashers. I move down to my bumper. My bumper is all in one piece, no major damage. This is my license plate. It's highly visible and up to date. I have fog lights. They are amber in color. They are not cracked, not broken, and not burnt out. Properly secure, no missing hardware. Underneath my vehicle, I see no hanging hoses, no cables, no puddles. My vehicle is leveled. If it were not, it would mean I have a suspension problem or a flat tire. Okay? Now we're going to move on to the passenger side. This is my passenger side motor compartment. From top to bottom, I have general hoses and cables. They are not ripped, not torn, not frayed, properly secure, no missing hardware. Hoses are not leaking, cables are properly connected. I move on to my alternator. My alternator is not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware. My belt has no more than 3/4 of an inch of free play. Behind my alternator, I have a water pump and a water pump hose. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware. My water pump is gear driven and it is not leaking. Move on to my radiator and my radiator fan. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, nothing wrapped around my fan. Radiator itself is not leaking. This is my passenger side. Let's move on to my driver's side motor compartment. Moving on to my driver's side motor compartment, we always start motor, steering, suspension, brakes, and tires, okay? So, we have general hoses and cables once again. They are not ripped, not torn, not frayed. They are properly secure. There is no missing hardware. Hoses are not leaking. Cables are properly connected, okay? Move on to my washer fluid reservoir and my coolant reservoir. They are both containers, so they are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware. They are both filled to level, properly capped, and not leaking. Both my containers have hoses coming out of them. My hoses are not ripped, torn, or frayed. They're properly secure. There is no missing hardware. They're also not leaking. I move on to my dipstick and my filler tube. They're both not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, built to level, not leaking, and properly capped. My dipstick is used to check if I have sufficient oil. If I do not, I will fill through my filler tube. On the inside compartment, I have air compressor and governor. They are both not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware. They are gear driven. They are not leaking. They have hoses connected to them that are not ripped, torn, or frayed, and also not leaking. That is my motor compartment. Then I move on to steering. I have a steering column connected to my U-joints. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware. Steering column has no more than 2 inches of free play. I have a steering box. Underneath, that's not visible, I have a steering pump. They are both not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, and not leaking. This is my power steering reservoir and my steering hose. My power steering reservoir is not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secured, no missing hardware, filled to level, properly capped, and not leaking. My steering hoses are not ripped, torn, or frayed, also not leaking. Move down to my steering linkage. This is my pitman arm. This is my drag link, and on the other side is my steering arm. They're connected on both sides with castle nut and cutter pins that are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secured, no missing hardware, all in one piece. And that's my steering compartment. I move on to my suspension. This is my spring mount. Those are my leaf springs. In the middle are my U-bolts. Okay, so spring mount, leaf springs, and U-bolts. They're all not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secured, no missing hardware, all in one piece. My leaf springs are not scissored. My U-bolts are securing my leaf springs. This is my shock absorber, not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, and not leaking. Move down to my brakes. I have a brake hose. My brake hose is not ripped, torn, or frayed, properly secure, no missing hardware, not leaking, connected to my chamber. My chamber is secure with the clamp that is not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, all in one piece, and not leaking. I have a push rod and I have a slack adjuster. They're both not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, secure with the cutter pins. Push rod is no more than 1 inch. Slack adjuster always at a 90 degree. Inside I have brake drums and brake pads. They're also not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure. Brake pads have no less than a 1/4 inch of life. No black or white residue. Black meaning metal friction, grease, or oil. White meaning a fire extinguisher was used. We move on to our tires. The front is always new, always matching, never recapped. Okay, no less than 432nd tread life. 80 to 100 psi or manufacturer specified. My tire itself is not ripped, not torn, not frayed, not bulging, and not leaking. Okay? Moving on to my rim and my lug nuts. They're not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, no shiny threads or rust around my lug nuts. Okay? So my axle hub and hub cap, they are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware, filled to level, not leaking, and capped. The front is always filled with grease. Then I have a valve stem. It's not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secure, no missing hardware. It's used to check and fill my tire pressure with air with a pressure gauge. Okay? And my valve stem is also not leaking. And that is the entire section A. Now we're gonna go to coupling. Okay, so this is my coupling system. Okay? So these are my air hoses and then my electrical. They're connected to my tractor, suspended on a bungee, and connected to my trailer. Okay? My air hoses are not ripped, not torn, not frayed, and not leaking. They're connected to my trailer with glad hands. My glad hands are not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secured, no missing hardware, no illegal welds. Inside my glad hands, I have a rubber seal. That's not ripped, not torn, not frayed, so there are no leaks. Red is emergency, blue is service. Then I move on to my electrical cable. My electrical cable is located in the middle, connected to my trailer. Okay? It's not ripped, not torn, not frayed. There's no exposed wires and no loose connections. And that is coupling part 1. Part 2 would be my fifth wheel. Alright, my fifth wheel as an entire compartment is not bent, broken, or cracked, properly secured, no missing hardware, no illegal welds, all in one piece. From the bottom I have mounting bolts. They're all present, no rust or shiny threads that will indicate looseness. I move down to my release arm. It's in the lock position. It locks and unlocks my locking jaws. I have a pickup apron and a skid plate. There's no space between them, properly greased at all times. My release arm locks and unlocks my locking jaws. Locking jaws are embracing my kingpin. Both my locking jaws and my kingpin are properly greased at all times. Kingpin is welded to my pickup apron, no illegal welds. Lock pin and cutter pin are present. And that is the entire section A of my exterior inspection. And with this, I conclude my exterior inspection.